So you know what, Jack? Why don't you just tell us what the latest is and how's everything going at Strike and what you've seen from global adoption?
Oh, the latest is good, man. Bitcoin, what's up 160 some percent this year? That's pretty sweet. Strike's going well. I don't know if everyone can tell by some of our announcements and what we've achieved this year, but the global adoption piece for us is super important. It's become particularly relevant because Binance is seemingly in trouble. FTX is non-existent and in jail. And so having a company that is global and particularly focused on Bitcoin, that's done well for us. It's a really important mission that I think the world needs a global Bitcoin company. And that luckily coincided with a lot of what we ended up shipping. So things are going really well for us. The main mission over the next 12 months for Strike is how many markets can we get in? How many on and off ramps can we allow for? And naturally, our products enable cross-border payments, buying and selling, and using Bitcoin probably better than every other service, like a Kraken or like a Coinbase. We think we're better at Bitcoin than those companies. And so we're happy. We're happy. I'm ready for the halving. I'm ready for the ETF. I'm fired up.
All right. One more question, and then I'll probably leave it up to the audience.
Sure.
Are you aware of any other countries that are considering or in talks to do with El Salvador? That's the biggest question you get. The question I want to ask is, no, I probably shouldn't ask, but I hope you didn't get into any legal trouble by working with El Salvador, or you had like really good lawyers to make sure that you had permission ahead of time.
Yeah. You know, Tone, I've been alive for 29 years so far, and what a fucking wild ride it's been. I'll tell you that. It has been quite the journey. Man, how do I answer your question? You know, what I think is really important is it is the project of the government of El Salvador and President Bukele. It is, I'm really proud of the role I played as an individual. But I really don't think it's mine to even partially own, nor anyone else's, to be really, really clear. I think it's really important. So, no, I don't think that there's much upside for Bitcoin, for myself, for El Salvador, for me to really speculate and talk details on, you know, what it was like to get emails from the IMF after that. But it's been a fun life. Hopefully I can live for a very long time and it stays as exciting as it's been. I'll tell you that much as far as my personal experience has gone. No, I don't know. I could say I expect more countries to follow suit. It's complicated. It's difficult. But long time preference. I expect El Salvador won't be the only one within this. I don't know. What can I say? Decade, maybe. That's safe enough to speculate.
All right, I want to open up the floor. I think a lot of people have questions for you. I'll have one mic. Maybe somebody else can walk around with another mic. So just stand up if you can so we can see you.
Hi, Jack. I want to thank you for what you've done. I use Strike quite a bit. And I also want to thank you for your personal attention when issues arise, because I know that you reach out to individuals. I wanted to know if you're still at I think it was a year ago, you were talking about some kind of credit card or debit card, and I was wondering if you were still considering providing a debit card so that use of Strike and funds on Strike can be integrated into the financial system that doesn't do QR codes.
Mm-hmm. Thanks for the support, man. It really does mean a lot. We're talking about some of the wild rides I've been on personally, and the support from the community sometimes is all the difference for me. So yes, what you're talking about is a debit card product that we built. I used it for about a quarter. We ran some form of like internal testing with employees and some outsiders, where customers and investors of ours. I made the decision. It's just sitting on a shelf. I actually think, and this may be a hot take, it wasn't a great product. I think that what we learned is rewards on cards is an awful business to be in. You end up competing with Amex, with JP Morgan, that have all the leverage in the world to give far better rewards. And there's no real margin in that business. That business is further monetized by getting a ton of depositors. And then, if you're a bank like JP Morgan, then buying dog shit treasuries with that money and giving them all the rewards they want so that they never leave. And so what I learned is a prepaid debit card's never going to compete with rewards. The way it works is when you swipe a card, you collect what's called interchange. And then what these companies do is they pass the interchange that the company that issues the card collects, and they pass it on to the users. The interchange, so basically what we would be able to pass customers for a prepaid debit card, was never going to be competitive. There was no real margin for us. And users might as well use their credit card if they wanted to actually get the most amount of sats. You'll get the most amount of rewards, and you can always turn the cash that you get from your Amex into sats. And so it made us think a lot deeper on, what problem can we solve for customers when it comes to Bitcoin? Our customer has turned into the Bitcoiner, or maybe arguably always has been. And so we actually earlier this year did extensive research and talked to Visa and some other banks on what a Bitcoin-backed credit card would look like, where you would actually have a line of credit that you could spend that's directly collateralized from Bitcoin. You can choose how much credit you want, what your term should be better, your loan agreement should be better, your line of credit would be better if it was a fully collateralized Bitcoin-backed credit card. And so we've looked into that. I can transparently tell you guys, we haven't decided that the market is big enough and ready for that product. But that's just I'm being dead honest with you. That's the evolution. We built it. And I realized after using it myself and looking at the economics behind the scenes, I was like, this product's dog shit. I can understand why people are excited about it, but I would highly recommend you go maximize the rewards you would get from someone who is incented to give you the most, and just stack sats that way. And our time and energy was probably better focused on things like launching Strike Africa and Strike Europe. And we have some interesting custody plans that I think are more innovative than a prepaid debit card, if that makes any sense. But, we actively look at how we can give customers a type of product that I think you guys would like. But it just wasn't the prepaid debit card for now.
Yo, Jack, what up? Hey, couple things. 2FA, can you please add it, please? To the Strike app. We've been waiting for that for a while. What's with the empty closet all the time? And the last one is, are you working with Twitter with any more further integration, like a Nostr hybrid type thing?
What was the first one? 2FA? Sure. You can enable a PIN, by the way. So we have the same type of security as a Cash App. It's worked well, and we think it scales well, but I hear you loud and clear. And so, yes, thumbs up on that. What was the second one? What's up with my closet? I don't fucking know. How do you want me to answer that? It's a room in my house, and I've always worked here. I mean, the truth is, the day I moved in, I had some media. I honestly, maybe I should go check. But it was something. It must have been a CNBC or a podcast or something. And I decided this was the best room in the house to just set my laptop up. And then it became a meme, and I just leaned into it. I love memes. I love Bitcoin memes. And everyone was like, is this kid at the time really trying to talk about disrupting money out of an empty women's closet? And I thought that was fucking hilarious. And I was like, yeah, actually, I am. And so I've just leaned into it, and I love it. It's hilarious. I can't hear you guys clapping, but I appreciate the applause. So yeah, that's the truth. I don't plan on changing it. I love being a walking meme at times. I think it's very representative to get on CNBC and juxtapose a bunch of suits with gray hair trying to defend dog shit treasuries, and then I get on an empty closet. That's hilarious. That's laugh out loud funny. So I love it. I live for it. And what was the last one? Remind me. Oh,
the further Twitter integration for something Twitter. Similar to Nostr. Yeah.
I mean, I'm being super transparent with you guys. The story with Twitter was wild. I was super excited to integrate, and we actually at the time maybe I tweet these out or something. We had a ton of exploration designs on what would it be like if there were payments integrated in your DMs so that you can actually make P2P type social payments with Twitter. What would it be like if you set your account to a certain mode where for people to follow you, it required a micro payment? And there were a ton of actual plans at the time. And then Jack left, and then Twitter went into this spiral, and everyone that we worked with on this project either got fired by Elon or quit because they didn't agree with what Elon was doing at the time. And so we would go through shuffling of like, who the fuck are we even working with on this? And then obviously Twitter is where it is today. Hilariously, I've become friends with Jack, and it's fun for us to laugh and joke about that in hindsight. But no, I cannot say that, Elon reached out and actively said, like, you know what, I'm just as excited about the Lightning Network as Jack was, and send me those designs. No, that has not happened, unfortunately. It was just a hilarious roller coaster, to be honest. Behind the scenes, it was pretty wild. But the integration is still there. I think everybody knows at this point, as Bitcoiners, we think it's severely underutilized, and we think that there's a lot of upside in having a native currency to the internet for a business like Twitter. But I think time heals all. We'll figure it out. And whether it's us or whether Elon does something on his own, I'd bet over the coming years that there's some Bitcoin strategy for Twitter.
All right. Thanks, Jack. We have another question. Michelle, you want to go?
Jack, it's great thanks for answering our questions. So the legal and regulatory challenges in the United States are sort of growing exponentially. I work for a Bitcoin company, and it's a really serious challenge. Do you have any hope that that will reverse in any way, or do you think that geographically distributing outside of the states is the only hope?
Nice. Congrats. Who do you work for?
I work for a small company, one of the original ATM companies, Byte Federal. So we have a non-custodial wallet and a point of sale system, but obviously you want to build a lot of features that you're not allowed to build, and you're forced to make a lot of decisions, that you have to make to be compliant, or you get shut down. So it's really hard to build in the space. And I know you guys are obviously everyone is facing the same challenges.
Yep, 100%. I think one of your questions was, do I think it'll reverse course? No. As from my conversations with regulators, I think it's very clear. This goes maybe more macroeconomic, which maybe is some of Tone's expertise, and maybe you guys have already been discussing this at the conference, but I think it's very clear that there's a new interest in Bitcoin from institutional capital, and that interest in Bitcoin is driven by the macroeconomic environment. Is that there's arguably never been a worse time macroeconomic. This is the worst bond market of all time. I think all the banks in America are technically insolvent. And so there's a lot of new interest. The fact that gold is performing the way it is in the face of a hawkish Federal Reserve is remarkable. And so how does that relate to your question? I think there's a very, very clear effort to clean this industry up so that those that need a clean, regulated on-ramp like an ETF can have one, because there's very serious money that has new interest in Bitcoin. Now, depending on how you look at things, that could be really, really bullish and exciting. That could be garbage full of shit. That's the state overreaching where they should be touching. That's just what I've seen. And so things like Binance, I don't think Binance will be the last and only big investigation. I think that there's a huge effort to clean this place up, whatever the fuck that means, as fast as possible, so that there's an ETF approval, and that as I think the Federal Reserve will have to lower rates drastically again. I think they're going to have to print a ton of money to refinance the debt that's due by 2026, and there's a lot of serious capital that needs Bitcoin to be ready for them to get an allocation towards. So that's why I think the rules are tightening. No, I do not think they'll get any looser. But for Strike, that's why, listen, like I log into my Twitter account and all the time I say, yo, you're such a statist. You love the state. Get the fuck out of here. No, I don't. But I knew the only way for us to be competitive and be a Bitcoin alternative to something like Coinbase is to follow the rules. And the rules have been there ever since. It's just no one was really, truly enforcing them, to be totally honest with you guys. So Stripe's got 49 licenses in America. We have a license outside of America. For all my Strike EU people, we now have 2 entities in Europe that we're almost ready to serve customers out of. And so we are very compliant and regulated, and it'll allow us to actually do a lot of the on and off ramp things, a lot of these products that, to your point, are now scary for those that don't have the compliant framework to actually serve. So, if that makes me a fan of the state, I guess I'll go fuck myself. I think I really, one of the reasons I started Strike is because I didn't trust Coinbase and Brian Armstrong to represent this industry. When I was a teenager and in my young 20s, I was part of an era where, Coinbase was cheering on forks that would have killed this space. And so I really wanted to play a role in representing Bitcoin the right way. And unfortunately, according to the law, it takes licenses. So Strike, it actually has given us an advantage while everyone else around me is going to jail. I'm serving and more customers in more and more markets. So that's unfortunate reality. I don't think it's going to get any better. I do think that they're trying to clean this up. It is bullish for Bitcoin spot price, but depending on your interest in Bitcoin, the state is clearly here to regulate. There's no doubt about that. So I don't know if that's what answers your question. We actually, the last thing I'll say is we at Strike have actually extended our licensing and infrastructure to Bitcoin companies for this exact reason. There has been companies that have came to us and said, shit, we've realized how we've been operating is actually illegal and we're really scared. Can we sit on top of you guys? Is there any way that can happen? And I said, yeah, of course. And so I don't know if you guys saw Primal, the Nasser client, launched their wallet. That's just sitting right on top of us. And so I'll probably blog about it before the year's over and let companies know if there's an opportunity to utilize what we have. I'm more than willing. But yeah, off the cuff thoughts of your question, hopefully helpful.
All right, we got 5 more minutes and we got 2 more questions. So let's go for it.
Thanks, Tone. Hey, Jack. My name's Stacy Boyle, and I'm the co-founder of Bitcoin Transformation Community. And we go into prisons. Justin Redrick, you guys may know him, Bitcoin vegan from Bars to Bitcoin. We go into prisons and educate inmates about Bitcoin. So speaking of people going to jail, would you be open to hiring anybody that's been formerly incarcerated? Because that's our goal, is to get people who are incarcerated jobs in the Bitcoin ecosystem.
Oh, that was an awesome question. There's someone named Bitcoin Vegan. Was that guy at the carnivory dinner?
Of course he wasn't, but he could have eaten. No, we had veggie stuff there.
I'm only kidding. Speaking of people like SBF going to jail, would I hire? Yes, of course I would. I think on our website, everyone knows I, in really aggressive fashion, dropped out of college. Like I didn't even get a credit. I got in a huge fight with my dorm mates, actually. So it was like the most egregious way of dropping out of college. And everyone knows that. And so I think on our corporate website, we do say we don't really care about your background. We care about, and we list it, a passion for Bitcoin and extreme talent and work ethic in this space. And so that's always been requirements. So yeah, of course, it obviously depends on the role and the expertise. But no, I would have no issue personally employing anyone with any background, to be totally candid.
Great. We got some candidates coming your way then soon.
Love that.
Okay.
Congrats,
Right.
by the way. Entrepreneurs unite on being a co-founder. That's awesome.
All right, last one.
Hey, Jack. Really appreciate all the push you've put in the space and continued adoption, all that stuff. Considering the continued adoption that's going to happen globally and the mempool backing up and increasing transaction fees, the lowering of the subsidy, all that stuff. Closer to the mic, sorry. What do you see? So far, adoption has been mostly between, people who have economic resources, not those who need it the most, those who are most negatively inflected by inflation. So how do you see the dust problem being solved so that way those with the least economic resources have access to Bitcoin in the future? Does that make sense, my question?
Yes. This just reminds me of, is Giacomo sitting in the audience? This just reminds me of the old days of who tweeted, it was with Roger Ver about whether Bitcoin is for starving babies in certain markets.
Samson Mao?
Samson, that boy, Tone. Yes, you were around those days, 100%. What do I think we do about those that are in an unfortunate stance economically and how they can get access to Bitcoin? I think the community stance has always been, we should not update the protocol or the base chain or core or whatever version of that you subscribe to in unfortunate ways that changes the game theory and changes the core functionality of Bitcoin, poses some risk to the future of the asset, only to speculate that that would better enhance what we think of as poor people somewhere else in the world. What I think you learn to realize is when you actually do customer interviews and you actually talk to these folks, and when you go live in El Salvador and you actually understand what's going on, it's not as cookie cutter as, I'm sitting in my house and I look at mempool.space and I'm looking at a dust transaction not being able to be utilized and it's making it uneconomical. And that makes me want to change Bitcoin entirely because I need to fix the poor. I think that over the last decade that I've been in Bitcoin, that's an overstated and misunderstood problem. I do think, to your point, I think that global Bitcoin adoption is a problem that I'll probably work on and die without fully solving 100%. And hopefully my grandkids can work on it. But I don't think changing the way the protocol treats its fee market and understands dust transactions. I don't think people I don't know if you specified a place in the world. So I don't know. I mean, protocols like Liquid, I think, are far cooler than people give credit for. I think Lightning is far from being fully adopted to where we can see its potential. But I don't have any interest in changing the base layer at all for what I think we call poor people around the world. I actually don't think it would solve any of their problems.
Awesome. Thanks, Jack. Any closing thoughts as we wrap up?
No, I'm just sorry again. I can't be there in person. Looks awesome. I follow everything on Twitter, so it looks like you guys are having a good time. So enjoy. And thanks again, Tone. I appreciate you including me. It's a legendary conference at this point. I remember, here's a story for you guys. First time I ever went to this conference, American Hodl, he taught me how to play blackjack at one of the casinos, and I watched him win. At the time was like one full Bitcoin. I think he won like 18 grand and bought a whole Bitcoin from it. So it's a legendary conference, and I'm jealous of you guys that I'm not there. So enjoy.
All right. Thanks, Jack. Thanks for joining us. Over.
Yeah. Take care, guys.